I'm going to try to set up a Git repository on this computer as opposed to the other computer just to see if it's possible. So I'm going to go new, create a new repository, dnettles repository name. So tech 272 spring. Okay. All right. Actually, I could import a repository. Let me try that. So proof that what may be confusing to you is probably just as confusing to me. Cancel. While that's happening, I'm going to go Git. Already logged in. Let me share my whole desktop. Okay. So I just cloned it onto this computer. I have no idea if you can follow any of the things that happened. And then I can now go to Dreamweaver. And I'm going to change site, manage sites, change Tech 272, edit. And now I'm going to add it from documents, GitHub, there, choose, save, okay, done. And here are my files, columns, floats, tables. All that's good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this floats files and I'm going to go File, Edit, Duplicate. And instead of floats, I'm going to call that, what am I going to call it? Give me a second. I'm going to call this Flex, F-L-E-X. And I'm going to go to Index. And I'm going to interesting. Design view, does it show up? Code view shows me nothing. Oh, that's lovely. So instead, I guess I'm not going to use Dreamweaver. Well, let's see. Quit Dreamweaver. Let's start Dreamweaver up again. Okay, that's better. So we've got index. This isn't tabbed out right. So I'm going to tab, tab. It gets tabbed in. Okay. That also gets tabbed in. Right. Right. And now instead of float, well, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to create a new one. And this is going to be Flex, lowercase. And this is the Flex example. Okay. And if I save that and I go to GitHub Desktop, you see that I've got two files, two changed files. So I can select those, summarize, add Flex file, commit to main. Is it going to do it? Check, check, commit to main. Commit to main, push origin. I could go to view it on GitHub. I think it actually takes a little while. So I'm not going to do that yet. Just going to go back here. So again, I added a new link. So I added in project 3 Nettles, I took and duplicated floats and I added then a link on this page. I'm hoping this is all making some kind of sense. So now I'm going to go to Flex, which looks like this. And it in fact has duplicates. It has all this information on floats. And I'm actually going to delete that because I'm not going to use that style for this. I'm going to use something called Flex. So up until this point, when we're using floats, we would use floats to place items next to each other. Before we had floats, all we had, if we wanted to put items next to each other, was tables. Once we had floats, we could use floats to put items next to each other. But it really wasn't robust because, in fact, you could never center those items. You could tell them to float left or you can float them right, but you couldn't float them to the center. So they came up around 2010 with something called Flex. And Flex allows you to have items listed next to each other, but they then, wow, this is the right one. Yeah, I guess it's the right one. Okay, so once we could place items next to each other, well, I'm sorry. Okay, I lost my train of thought. So when we use floats to place things next to each other, we can either do them left or right. In order to make them look properly, you had to then play around with a lot of other features to get the effect that you want. And then around 2010, they came out with a CSS feature called Flex. And Flex then allows you to do much more complicated things. And in fact, I'm only going to cover a very few of the features. I'm going to do what I would consider to be the sort of the maximum usefulness Flex. And so we're going to go into, let's see. So we've got a section, and then, so we've got a section, and I don't need to clear fix that section. And then that section closes, and then I'm going to create a new section. And I'm going to close that section down here. Okay. So we have biography and early career, and they're both in their own section. And then I'm going to create a div ID equals wrap. It'd help if I put brackets around it. Take all of that, indent it. \div. Comment. That should be div, not dev, because that will definitely not work. Close, wrap. Okay, so close the wrap. All right, so in order to use Flex, you have to have a container around the items that are going to be placed in a row next to each other. And we have that now because we have an ID wrap. And then we have sections inside, which are going to be the things that are then floated. Well, not floated, but they're going to be made so that they work. And let me go back to split. And let's turn off this outline for the moment because I don't really need it. You refresh. So we have these two items here. And we'll just make this H3 just to make them the same. Okay. And just to make this all clearer, let's see. Style. This is an inline style. I'm only inline styling. Oh, I don't know. Okay. Class equals. Oh, stop that. That may be just super ugly. Let's find out. Oh, misspelled. Yeah, super ugly. Let's make this another color. Light yellow. This. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so they're at least different. You'll be able to tell them apart. We've got wrap. Since it's an ID, it's number sign, wrap. Padding. Pixels. Okay. Then I'm going to take and add the elements the CSS that turns this into a Flex container. So I'm going to do that by doing this, because I might want to use it again. Dot Flex container. And we're going to tell it display Flex. And then I'm going to take here the ID and class equals Flex container. And I don't know if anything will happen. So nothing happens yet. We can take this section, and both of these are sections down here. So I'm going to go width 40% and save. View, fresh design view. Okay, so currently we've told it to be a Flex container, but we haven't added the other things that we need to add in order to make this actually work. So, and I'm not entirely certain it is working. So class Flex container. So that's there. And justify content. Center. And save. And okay, this may not work. Who knows? Flex wrap. Okay, so Flex direction, row. Okay. And so this is all wasted. Okay, I've been being a real idiot. I changed this to design view, and I want this to be live view. And then you see that in fact, my code works. And I just couldn't see that that's what happened. And the way I figured that out was I went over to Chrome and looked at the code, and the code worked just fine. Now there's one little thing here, and that's that this image hangs out of the window when it gets too small. I can change that by going to figure class FR 200. I can tell well, there's a bunch of ways I can deal with this. I can go image width 100%. And that gets a little bigger, that gets a little smaller, and it will never extend past my window. So, and then fig caption. And those are italic. There's another big feature that I can add to Flex container, and I can tell it, I can tell it gap equals 10 pixels, and that it creates a gap, 20 pixels. If I change the width of these items, or actually I can make this, might be better to make it like 2.5%. This is about the same amount of size, and then I can change the width of these objects, 40. Uh, 45, 42.5. So, like that. So that allows us to put items next to each other. I can also go down here, and I'll create another one, another div class equals Flex container. Technically, this is why you would want to have, you'd actually probably not want to put the wrap around your container elements. So I'm going to create section Actually, let's just try this. P. Let's see. Um, um, okay. Yellow space. And then I'm going to call this programs. And right now, as you see, I've got all these items and they're all like that. And so I'm going to go up here. And I call this programs. P. So it's going to look for a class programs, and it's going to look inside that for a P element, and I'm hoping this works. Wrong bracket, curly bracket, delete. Bold, view, refresh. Dot programs. Now it works. Font size 20 pixels. Background color. What the heck, aqua. Ugh, bad. Work. Still didn't work. Adding 10 pixels. And so we could actually have a listing, and I could keep adding to that listing. I mean, there's an argument that says that what I should be using is a UL with the class Flex container. But Premiere, MS Word, Excel. Okay, so you could make a list of programs that you know how to use. And there's one other thing I'm going to add to this. Box corner. Hope that's correct. 6 pixels. Fresh. Nope, it's not the right. It's not box, it's border. Border radius, 6 pixels. Or 8 pixels, 9 pixels. Like that, we can round the corners. And we could go back up here. We've got a padding in here, so maybe that needs to be changed. Flex container gap is 2.5, make it 1.5. Tightens them up a little bit, but maybe that gets to be 2.5. But then programs. Let's see what happens if we go to, we just create programs. Yeah, 1.5%. Why would that? Kill it. You refresh. Here we go. So maybe make that 1. And that tightens those. And padding 10 pixels, 20 pixels. Looks a little nicer. We can go back to this display justified content left. And everything moves to the left. Justified content right. Refresh live view. No, really. Really? Command save. Really? Oh, right. Sorry, it's flex flex end, flex start. Center. for space around. And what I've done here, since it says flex, flex direction is row, if I make this column, then everything jumps, and now it's all like that. And since I hadn't specified a width for these items, they immediately went to 100%. Column reverse. Now they should be in the opposite order. Oh, that's in there. Row. Or row reverse. Reverse is the order there. So those are some of the functions of a Flex container. There is a website. Let me see. If I go to the website, okay. I assume I'm just sharing everything. Yeah. Okay. So if I go to Flex, CSS, there's something called CSStricks.com, complete guide to Flexbox, and it talks about some of the crazy things you can do with Flex. What I was going to say also is that we've got something called Flex Wrap Set. And when you have Flex Wrap Set, I could take this entire group, or I'll take a few of these and just duplicate them. And you'll see that what Flex Wrap does is that it actually brings the extra ones down to the next column and centers them. So this is really useful if, say, I had a whole lot of photos for a website where I'm showing my work, and Flex would be sort of an ideal way of placing those items. And then as I add more items, they would just wrap down to the next line. Okay, so that's what I'd like you to try and experiment with this week. And I hope you find it to be fun. And next week, we'll talk about the final project, which will be to do a resume. And I'll walk you through creating an online resume. So hope you had a good time, and I will talk with you next week.